Hello, I want to spend some time today talking about time. Now, I'm Emmalou Penrod. I'm your family relationship coach, and I'm going live every Monday at 1 p.m. because this is important to me. Families matter. They're the foundation of society. And if we want to make the world a better place, we need to start with the foundation and strengthen families. That families are under attack. I think parents today are facing greater challenges than any previous generation had to deal with. And that's why it's so important now than ever before for parents to be able to spend time with their children. When I say time with their children, I don't just mean time in contention or time on their devices, but those positive, helpful interactions. Now, consider this. A century or more ago, families worked together. They were all together on a farm and they worked beside each other. So the parents spent a lot of time with their children. Maybe they were teaching them life skills, they were teaching them their values. And in earlier times, they were teaching them to read and write. And they were forming bonds that lasted. After the children grew up and left home, they would still maintain that contact with their parents. And that helped the youth learn those values, that sense of purpose. And now compare that to our modern family where dad goes to work, mom goes to work, the children go off to school or off to daycare. They're pulled in separate directions. And quite often there is limited waking hours that are spent interacting with family members. And sometimes that time is spent where they're in the same room, but they're each on their individual devices. They're not interacting with each other. Or there's contention and they're fighting over chores. Whose turn is it to do the dishes, to prepare the meal, to manage, shovel the snow or whatever. And it becomes such a negative influence that some children, when they grow up, leave home and literally never want to have contact with their parents again. And this is heartbreaking. This can be such a positive, rewarding time, especially when children are young. That's when they are the most easily influenced by their parents because they adore their parents. A toddler, no matter what happens, a toddler loves their parents. They want to be with them. And if you build that rapport, that trust, they have all these positive, loving interactions. They have no doubt that you, as their parent, love them and accept them as they are and would do anything to help them. Once that level of trust and rapport is established, then as they enter those turbulent years of growing up, you become their mentor. You become that trusted adult they can go to when they have a question, when they have a decision to make, and they want someone to help them wade through it. And that's why it's so important for parents to be able to spend time with their children in positive, loving, and productive ways. Now, it's challenging because it's becoming harder and harder to provide a living for a family. I'm thinking of those families that both parents need to be out of work, and sometimes one or both of them need to be working a second job, and their children need to go into daycare, and they may only get a few minutes a day that they can interact. And as more and more parents are taking a look at the public school system, and I have observed it from the inside. I'm a retired school teacher. I can well understand why some parents might feel some concern. and might feel motivated to be more involved in their child's education. So now that we live in this digital age, work from home options are more readily available. I recently learned about one that's been proven effective. I'm going to tell you about that next week. But for today, I wanted you to just have time to focus on your the time you spend with your children. Maybe calculate how many minutes or hours a week do you spend with your children, and how is that time spent? Is it spent in interacting, listening to their day, listening to what's important to them? Or is it spent in contention? Is it spent in argument? Or is it spent separately with everyone on their devices and no one really interacting? Please consider that. And then join me next week at the same time. I want to talk about a proven business plan and why it's working for so many parents like you. I'll give you all that information next week. Until then, love yourself, love your family. Let's make the world a better place by strengthening families. This is Emmalou Penrod with healingyourfamilies.com.